Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
Welcome to Growing Up Punk. If this is the first time you've listened, welcome to the family. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This time we got another interview. Aaron's sitting down with Josh from the Huntingtons. They're going to talk about how Josh got into music, how the band, the Huntingtons, got to play with Joey Ramone. Josh even dives into a few of his favorite records as well, chats about their latest record. If you want, you can follow us on social media. Of course, you can find us on Instagram at Growing Up Punk. You can find us on Twitter at Growing Punk Pod. You can find myself on Instagram and Twitter at David Growing Up. And Aaron is on Instagram at Aaron Grew Up Punk. Go follow us. Go subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. I will give you a heads up. If you're listening on YouTube right now, stop. Go find the show on your favorite podcast app, because if you're listening on YouTube, I mean, you can listen, but you're going to miss out. There's a ton of music in this episode, and that music just doesn't exist on the YouTube show. So there you go. Go listen to us on your favorite podcast app. But anyway, we are about to get into an interview. Aaron, sitting down with Josh from the Huntingtons.
Yeah, so the first time that I discovered the Huntingtons, it was the year that Fun and Games came out. So I'm not sure if that was maybe like 96, 97. So I was at a bookstore, and the cover just caught my eye, and I remember putting it on back when they had demos or whatever to listen to, and I was just instantly hooked. I hadn't heard anything like that. I had never heard bands like the Ramones or anything. I don't even know if I would have even heard a band like Green Day yet. Maybe I would have. But yeah, I just instantly loved that album, and funny enough, I actually just got a copy of that on CD last week. So I'm pretty stoked to have that in my collection now.
What's that, Fun and Games?
Yeah. So actually, Ethan Locke, you know who he is? He's played in. Yeah. So he's selling
played in every band ever.
Yeah, except the Huntingtons, or maybe he did. Maybe he filled in for a show or something.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was in there somewhere.
Yeah. So he's selling off his CD collection, and so I was able to grab a bunch of albums from him. So I was pretty stoked to find that one in there.
I found the original version of that. Like, they basically just flat out stole that cover art from. Hold on, I got it right here.
Like a kid's board game or something? Or
yeah, it's called Do the Hokey Pokey and the Bunny Hop. Nice. Fun and Games. Like, not only did they steal the album art, but they stole the album
actual
name, Fun and Games, and just flat out swiped it and went with it, and didn't get in trouble.
Yeah, I was just going to say, was there ever any lawsuits pending or anything on that?
I mean, literally on the back of this record, it's like a board game to like, and there's no like credits or anything. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It does say that there's like some orchestra on the actual record, but
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. They got away with that one. If they ever get sued, I was no part of that record. So
I see. I was going to ask what they just saw that game and thought it was funny, or what?
Yeah, they just were looking for old cool photos, and that's what they came up with.
Yeah. Well, I think the Cooties record too. I don't know if you remember that one. It had something similar to kids playing in a sandbox or something too, so maybe that was just the punk thing to do back then.
Yeah, I remember that.
But that's awesome. Yeah, what would you say is one experience in your life with music that made you think, like, that's what I want to do?
I don't know if it's one experience. I just really was attracted to the idea of playing guitar. Like, I just thought the shape of it looked cool, and I don't know, just hearing like distortion from bands when I was a little kid was just, I don't know, kind of blowing me away.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make that sound myself, and I never really cared about being like in a huge rock band or anything, and I still don't really have any interest in being any more famous than I am, which is not very much at all. But I love playing. I love like performing and, doing a good show, because it feels good to like know that you did a good show.
Yeah.
But it was like, I was probably 10 or 11, and I had this little Kawasaki one-man jam guitar with buttons on it. And my parents would see me just like, stand in front of the radio pretending to play along, but I'm not, I'm pushing buttons and playing along with like Nirvana or whatever. And they were like, "Hey, do you want to like maybe learn guitar?" I'm like, "Yeah." So 13th birthday, they bought me one and took some lessons and quit the lessons and moved on with my life. And I was fortunate to kind of have a decent ability to play by ear, and I could really hear any song and play along with it without ever hearing it and stuff. So it's been easy to learn songs. It's been a struggle because I always want to skip band practice because I'm like, I don't need to go to practice. Come on, play these songs in my sleep.
Yeah.
But it gets Cliff especially gets really upset about that. He's like, "Come on, you got to be there, man."
Yeah, well, you guys got a lot of songs in your catalog now, so you wouldn't want to mess those up.
Yeah, at this point, we've been mixing up the set, not doing the same old thing every time. We're adding in some stuff that we've either never played or haven't played in 15 years or whatever, and so we have to practice. And now we have new songs, and the new songs we have no idea how they're going to go over live until we play them live. So
right. Yeah, so how do you guys go about picking a set list when you have so many albums?
Sometimes we throw ideas out there like, "Hey, how do you guys feel about if we tried like this one or that one?" And it'll either be like, "Yeah, we did that 15 years ago and it felt really slow live. It just didn't go over well live, or it's not a real popular song." And or we'd be like, "All right, we can try it. We'll try to practice," and then we kind of make a decision from there. But 90% of the set list comes from Mike. And it's not something that we like said, "Mike, you're the one that makes the set list." It's just something that evolved over the years. He's the one that makes it, and makes sense because he's singing it. So
right. Yeah.
We just kind of let him do it, and he comes up with the order, and he's really good at knowing the time of everything. So
yeah. And are there songs that most of you guys just kind of agree that you'll never play just because you don't like them, or?
There's probably some that 3 out of 4 like to play, or half the band likes to play, but and the others will just do it.
Yeah.
Just because the other guys want to play it. I don't really like playing 1985. It's just like an annoying song for me. But Cliff loves playing that. It's lately we've been playing it, and it's because we're doing this whole Back to the Future trilogy thing.
Well,
and I can't leave it out. But
right. Well, what's funny about that song? So that song was on High School Rock, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is actually that's my favorite studio album of your guys's. And when that album came out, which when even that song, I wouldn't have even known what Back to the Future was. I didn't grow up with a TV or watching a lot of movies, and so it's funny that you say that, because my first experience was just, I don't really know what this song is about.
Yeah, what is this?
Catchy song, so cool. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go for it. But
yeah, I bought that album on cassette tape in the Christian bookstore.
Okay, so that was before you were in the band, that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I joined the band like a year later, but in the brief little 4-year period or so that they were a band before I joined, they put out I don't know, 10 records or something, so many records. And then I I joined, and then more records came out after I was in the band that I didn't play on. So I wasn't, they kind of decided like, let's just keep, you didn't play on it. We're not going to like picture you on it. And I had no problem with that because I had nothing to do with it. But,
Right.
But then things really slowed down as far as pumping out albums, from what they were doing early on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's sweet.
I would have loved to have been on Get Lost or High School Rock. That would have been awesome to be part of that whole thing. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for listeners that might not know your band as much, you guys are, you're heavily influenced by a band called the Ramones. Is that a band that you were influenced by kind of before joining the band, or I'm always intrigued to hear when a band is, so influenced by another band, kind of how that came about.
Yeah, it's cool because there's been guys in the band who weren't big Ramones fans, but kind of had to become Ramones fans. Like the guy who played drums for us in 99, 2000, when we were when we were really going full force with this Ramones style thing, and we ended up playing with Joey Ramone and CBGB's. His name is Josh Zimmer, and he really did not care about the Ramones. Yet he's on stage with Joey twice, and we toured with Marky Ramone in Europe, and he got to know Marky, and Marky thought he was hilarious, and but he liked Screeching Weasel and that style punk rock, which is it's similar to Ramones, but it was, I don't know if you could say it's more new school than Ramones.
Right. Yeah.
Or it's kind of a weird thing to say about Screeching Weasel, but that's what he was more into. But for me, went back to like childhood, just because my dad, I feel like you either love your parents' music or you hate it. And my dad and I always loved what he was listening to. And
that's cool.
When he was getting rid of his records, I was basically taking all of them. And he had a Ramones Mania on a cassette tape, and I remember being in this truck as a little kid, and he would just hit the rewind button. It was like an automatic rewind button, and play Beat on the Brat over and over again, just because he thought it was so cool how Joey sang it or whatever. And so that was just grinding into my head at a young age, and I've just always been a fan.
Yeah. So how did that come about that you guys were backing those Ramones guys? What was that relationship there? Had they, heard of you guys? And that's really intriguing to me.
The thing with Joey the first time was a contest that we found out about a week ahead of time. And I said to the guys, and I was new in the band. I had only played like 5 shows or something. And I was like, why don't we play this? And they're like, yeah, right, man. It's next week, and they don't know who we are. We're not going to. And I was like, yeah, but what do you mean? We would win this thing. And it was some contest, CBGB's, and the best band would get to play with Joey as their singer. And it was just a Ramones cover contest thing. And they're like, you want to try and get us on there? Go for it. And I was like, okay. And I called around. I eventually got on the phone with Arturo Vega, who was the Ramones art director. He created the Ramones seal, and he was their lighting guy for all their shows and everything. And I was like, we really should be playing the show. And he was like, well, it's already booked up. You can send me a CD if you want, but I can't promise anything. And I said, all right, what's your address? And I overnight him a copy of File Under Ramones. And then I had a voicemail a day or two later that was like, Joey Ramone is here. He wants to talk to you. Call me back. Wow. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? So that's kind of how it started. And I eventually talked to Joey, and he's like, yeah, I want to play with you guys, and talked about what songs to play, but it ended up being a rigged contest because he already chose the winner. and we were able to go up there and actually sound check with him before the whole thing went down.
Yeah, crazy.
But it was great. And then I don't know, that kind of just got us in the Ramones like bubble a little bit, and
yeah,
we ended up we were already doing a tour in Europe, but the band we were going out with, their drummer quit or something, and they were friends with Marky Ramone, and they ended up hiring him to play drums. So that was just a random thing that the band that we're touring with is going to have a Ramone with them on this 4 or 5 week tour all over Europe. So that was cool. And then we came back from that and we did another show at CBGB's and it was labeled Joey Ramone and Friends. And it was like us and like Wheatus, that band Wheatus played. And
oh, that's funny. The bass player from Wheatus, he produced one of the records that the band I played in with. So that's funny. He was.
What is this band that you played in? You never told me.
Yeah, it was a band called Means. We were on Face Down Records.
Oh, really?
And so we recorded at a studio in New York, and so it was Rich Leege or something was his name.
Cool.
Yeah, so he's. It just comes up that he's in this band Wheatus. So of course, we have to find the video for Teenage Dirtbag, and there he is. So
I guess Joey was just a big fan of them and became friends with them, and he just invited anyone that he wanted to play this show, and it was super random. But yeah, Wheatus played, and then Ronnie Spector was there, and she sang some songs with him, and then we got to play with him. But yeah, Wheatus was. That song, Teenage Dirtbag, is like such a huge song, but then really like they had nothing after that.
Yeah. I couldn't even name another song from them. So,
right.
Yeah, man, that must have felt amazing. Just that's such a cool experience. I don't know if I've ever heard of that where, you got these bands you look up to, and kind of next thing you know, you're playing with them and hanging out with them, and that must have been a really cool feeling.
Yeah, the whole thing with Joey was like a impossible dream come true, like something that you wouldn't really even ever. I wish that someday I could play with Joey Ramone or something. Obviously now he's gone, and it's like we're definitely super thankful that we had that opportunity.
Yeah,
but I don't know, that was just like I just thank God that we had that chance to do that and have those memories. I have like the poster that that was created for that first show. It's so that was over 20 years ago now, but I still got that thing framed in my
for sure
my music room here and stuff. And, yeah,
that's crazy. So did that lead into you playing with CJ Ramone then?
No, that was years later when Chris, our current drummer, I think the true story is he was just having a few beers and on his computer on Facebook or something, or probably just playing on his phone, and decided to send CJ a message on Facebook and just say, hey, if you ever need East Coast guys, let us know. And then he wrote back and was like, I'm always looking for good East Coast guys.
Wow.
And we had met CJ when we played with Joey, but that was so long ago. We didn't ever expect him to, and Chris wasn't even there for that. But, long story short, he ended up contacting us, and I think Chris called me one time. He's like, I might have accidentally drunk messaged CJ Ramone and said something about us being willing to play for him. And I'm like, what? Why would you do that, man? You don't really even play for us. Like he was very new to being in the band. I don't even know if he had a show with us yet.
Okay.
Like, what are you doing? But it worked out, and I give him credit for that. It was a ballsy move that, kind of like my thing with, the guys were like, nah, we're not going to play that show with Joey. You're crazy. And I was like, well, why don't we try?
Yeah.
And then we got to, so sometimes you just got to go out there and give it a shot.
Yeah. So were you a part of his latest record, The Holy Spell?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, he did all that on the West Coast, and I think even if I would have been a part of it, he ended up scratching pretty much the whole record when he got to the studio and rewrote the whole thing in the studio. So any songwriting or anything like that, if we were to ever do anything, I'm sure it would have been cut.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, that was actually that album was in my top 5 records of 2019, which is kind of odd for me because I listen to a lot more metal now, or kind of lean to more towards 90s kind of skate punk and stuff. But yeah, that album I didn't even know of CJ Ramon, but that album popped up on a music release site that I follow, and so I checked it out, and I don't know, there's just something about it. It's super catchy, and I just found myself kind of listening to it over and over again. So yeah, it made the top list. More so just because it got a lot of plays. Oftentimes I pick albums that just get the most plays. Yeah. So since that record has come out, have you done any touring with him?
No, actually, it's been. I'm trying to think if it was last year. Or if it was, I think it's been coming up on like at least a year and a half since I played with him, and he moved out to California, to the San Francisco area. That's where his wife's family's from. And so he's been, rather than like every time I go on tour, he would fly his wife's parents out from the West Coast to like watch his kids, because his wife had to work, and he was touring a lot, and basically it came time to like make it like more of a permanent home situation for everybody. And
right.
So he eventually sold his house and was able to get out of Long Island and head west. And that's where Fat Records is,
right.
That's his record label. So it's kind of easier from a music standpoint to be around all that, I guess.
Right.
And it's really not convenient for him to fly me out or Chris or anything when he has guys out there. Like Pete Sosa is a great drummer, and he's just down the coast.
Okay.
Well, a decent ways down the coast. He's, Southern California, but still, he's a West Coast guy. And if anyone was going to be like flown out for anything, it would be Nate, the other guitar player, because he's just such a musical genius that you can't really afford to not have him in your band if you have the chance. And he's always touring with different bands, and he's on the road all the time, and he's just a kid. He's like 22 years old, I think. He started with us when he was 18 or 19 years old when we were first going on tour with this guy. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Why? He's a kid, man. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So you're just waiting for the call then, and hoping it might come through eventually, or I don't know if he tours much anymore anyways, but
no, he's not going to be touring anymore. I mean, he kind of finished up with touring, but he's doing like, he'll probably do festivals and one-offs and things like that. So the last he said about regarding our position in the band or whatever, he just said, "You're in the bullpen." I'm like, okay,
yeah,
whatever.
Oh.
So I don't know if that'll ever mean anything ever again, but I'm thankful for all the time I had in the band. I got to go to all these places in the world that I never would have otherwise gone to.
Yeah.
And then, I'm also thankful to be home and working, and you definitely don't make money playing in a band.
Right. Yep. Yeah, so kind of going back to the Ramones sound with the Huntingtons, was there ever a period where like maybe you guys thought about changing your sound at all, or was it kind of a decision of the band that this is the sound we want to have moving forward?
Well, it kind of all comes down to Mike's writing, and then like he writes the majority of the songs, but like for this new album, Cliff brought a lot of ideas and riffs or entire songs, like from start to finish as far as like what the chords are and everything. And he'll send us a video of him like standing in his bedroom and playing guitar by himself. And then be like, well, what do you guys think? And it's hard to tell from that. So we, but we at least get the song in our heads, and then we go to practice and we try and work it out and see how it sounds. And either someone will speak up and be like, hey, no offense, I don't think this really fits. This is kind of, and with this new album, one of the songs on it, I told them I don't think this is a good vibe. I think it's like, I don't like it. And everyone kind of shut me down. They're like, no, it's great. And Mike's like, yeah, it's definitely like going to be at this point in the record, and it's going to fit with everything and tie it all together. And when it's all said and done, everyone else was right. I was wrong. And the song is pretty good. And it's actually the last song on the record.
Okay.
And it kind of ends everything in a cool way. But I don't think we ever talked about like, let's change our style or do this or that. It's just, bands evolve, but we tried not to evolve too much. And we wanted to make sure that we kept the diehards and the old school fans happy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, and I'm one of those fans. Like I love, I'm never one to complain when a band kind of sounds the same. If I love a band for an album I like, I'm happy to have 5 more albums like that. Like that doesn't bother me. So I mean, I always loved that about you guys. When a Huntingtons record was coming out, you knew what you were getting into. And so
yeah.
I don't mean that question, like as an insult or like, why'd you guys kind of stay the same? But just, when a band has been around for so long, it's almost bound to have, one guy who's like, I'm tired of playing this, or I'm influenced by something else, should we try be a bit more experimental or
Yeah.
if everyone's just kind of happy staying the same and doing their thing. So no, it's all good either way.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I kind of, if I like a band, I want them to sound like the band that I like, or the version of the band that I like. If Rancid comes out with a new album, I'm looking for that Out Come the Wolves style song on it, and I haven't got that from their last record or two, so I don't listen to them as much anymore. And
Yeah. Well, that's a good transition here. So I had asked you what your top 3 all-time favorite records were, and I'm always just interested to hear, what albums have influenced someone to the point where, it's their all-time favorite record. There's thousands of albums to choose from, and so I'm always curious to hear what those ones are. So you had sent me 3 albums, and so I've been listening to those this last week, and I just thought it'd be cool to maybe just, touch on each one of them, and I'd love to hear kind of why those albums stood out to you and why they've, remained your favorites over the years. So the first one was Rancid's Out Come the Wolves. And I have to admit, I kind of slept on this album, or even this band. I don't know why, I haven't listened to a lot of Rancid over the years. I've heard a lot of their songs, here and there, seen their videos. When I put this album on, I was like instantly bummed out at myself for not listening to it sooner, because it's awesome. Like I love that, that classic kind of ska punk sound. Some of my favorite bands, like Squad 5-0. When I'm listening to Rancid, I'm like, oh man, like half these songs, like, I can see why Squad 5-0 was influenced by them. And so it's such a great record, and I'm really excited to go back to it and listen. So, what are some of the things on that album that stood out to you, or what do you remember from when that album came out, and why it stood out to you so much?
Well, it's kind of interesting how I got that record. It was a friend of mine that I was in a band with years ago, like in high school, like guys from church. He was going through this phase where he was getting rid of all of his secular music. And rather than be a good Christian and throw them all away, he was selling them. So I ended up buying a ton of records from him that I still have today, and that was one of them. And I really just fell in love with it. I don't know why. It was never and this is back in 1998 or something like that. Like, you went through it this week after I sent you that email, I guess, but I went through it a long time ago, like, why didn't I ever listen to this record?
Yeah.
In the past year or two, however long it's been out. And it was just one of those things that I always would go back to it, and it doesn't matter. Like if I get off work and I'm just beat and I just want to like just drive home and just rock out or whatever, that's always been a go-to. And I realized over the years, it's been 20 plus years, and I mean, I don't listen to CDs anymore, but that CD probably got more spins than any of the other, except for one, which we can come to later, but definitely a lot of the most, one of the most spins from any of my CD collections.
Yeah. Did you get to see them live at all during that record cycle?
Yeah. I saw them a lot of, like, maybe 6 or 7 times. And then,
wow.
I mean, I would go see them in Philly when they're playing at, the Electric Factory or whatever. But then it became something where now they're pretty big now.
Yeah.
And when they go out on tour, they're playing like massive shows, and they're really expensive shows. And but I'll catch them at the festival. Like I would go to Riot Fest a lot in Chicago, and they played there a couple times. The one year they did the Outcome the Wolves album,
awesome.
like from start to finish. So I got to kind of, get in the pit for that.
Yeah. Well, that's a long album to do live. I think there's 19 songs on there or something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah, the next one was Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. So I'm curious to hear what it was about this one that kept you coming back to it.
Yeah, I sort of it's hard to pick this list, but I based it off of like the most listens. Like that Rancid album, I listened to it so many times, and I still do. The Guns N' Roses album, I think, is the one that I've owned the most copies of over the years, because
that's interesting.
It was one of like my dad bought it on cassette tape, and again, we had the same taste in music, but he bought it because he liked him. But then when he found me listening to him a lot, he was like, it's not really a good record. There's some bad words. There's like a sex scene in the one song. So he was like, hey, I don't want you to listen to that anymore. And then but I would keep listening to it. And then he was like, hey, all right, that's it. And he took it outside, and he like put like a bunch of firecrackers around it and blew it up.
Nice.
So
very dramatic.
as a kid, yeah, I'm like, man, but no big deal. I'll just buy my own copy. So I bought my own cassette version of that one. And then eventually I think I was in Europe with, I think the first time I was in Europe with Huntingtons, I found a European version of it. So I bought that. And then I bought it on vinyl when I found a good version of it on vinyl. And it was like really cool cover, like different cover.
Sweet.
And I don't know. I just, the CD would get scratched, so I'd buy another CD. Again, now it's like you don't have to worry about CDs being scratched or anything. Right. Everything, you just stream it all. But back then, I would just, I got to have a good copy of this one, so I just got to buy another one.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, it's definitely not a band that I've ever really paid much attention to. I mean, obviously they're everywhere, and always kind of intrigued to kind of hear why those albums stand out. So, yeah, then the last... We
really like... That was a big... I don't want to skip over talking about the new record too much, but I do want to say that was like a huge influence on this new record.
Oh, wow.
There's definitely a lot of parts that are, just the ideas maybe came from something that was from Appetite for Destruction. And it's such a cool record. It's different. It's got, it's not the same thing every song. And we tried to take that approach into the new album.
Yeah, that's cool. Yep. Well, that makes me look forward to hearing that influence on there. And the last one you have is the Ramones Live. So you said you needed to explain why you picked that one.
Well, it's because I picked Greatest Hits Live. So Ramones fans are gonna kill me. They're like, "What are you, crazy? It's Alive is the one, or Loco Live even, but not Greatest Hits Live." And but everyone's got their own reason for it, and mine was just my dad had some kind of that CD subscription thing where you pay a penny. You know, you take the little sticker stamps off and you put them on this thing and you mail it off, and it's supposed to be like a penny a CD, but it really ends up being way more. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like
the Columbia House.
Yeah. So he used to do that, and every now and then he would let me pick one, and I remembered liking them when I was younger. I'm like, oh, they got a live album, so I picked that one, and just that was the CD that got more spins than anything else, more than the Rancid or anything.
Yeah.
And it really, I really became a huge fan of CJ through that. I just loved the songs that he sang on. I loved the 1, 2, 3, 4 count offs that he did, and I'm not supposed to say that as a Ramones fan, but that's what happened, and that's the truth. So, yeah, I still love that record. I love, I could recite the entire thing as far as when they come in after Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and everything that Joey says between songs. Like, I know it's not a real live album. I know it's like a studio thing, and half of it was probably Johnny probably didn't even really play on it. There's a lot of sad stuff that you learn when you tour with the actual Ramon, but I don't care. Listening to it, I love it, and I put that up there. Yeah.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned that one, because besides High School Rock, my other favorite Huntingtons album is the live record, and actually I got that one on CD as well last week. And with that one, a friend got it, and I mean, we just listened to it a ton. And I just got such a kick out of the Take It Away, Mike A, all the kind of intros. And maybe now that you say that, the Ramones did those kind of things, Counting In or whatever. And I mean, I had never heard the Ramones at that point, and so. But I still love that record. Were you with the band when that came out, or no? That was still.
No, the live. Yeah, that was before me as well.
Okay.
I think I bought that I think I actually had got that on CD.
Yeah.
But they put out so many records right in 2 years, and I was just a big fan of the band, and so I was buying those records and listening to them, going to see them, and my band was playing with them, and got to know the guys, and eventually got the chance to play with them, and then I never left.
Yeah. So how many albums have you been on with the Huntingtons?
It's like the Songs That Give You, the self-titled, they were like the last 2 full-length studio records, and then there was a split we did with this band called The Retarded from Italy. There was I don't know, can't think of it. It was just little things, actually that might actually be it.
Yeah.
3 or 4 records.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. I would love to hear, kind of wrapping up here. Let's talk about the new record. I would kind of love to hear what inspired it, after, cause it's been a few years since you guys have released something, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. This was something we've been talking about for years. And I don't even know if Mike remembers this, but before Cliff really came back into the band, him and I had talked about a new record years and years ago, and we threw ideas around, and I sent him a song, and he'd be like, that's going to fit in perfectly as track 2 or track 3 or whatever, right after this. And So there was a whole plan that was coming, and then we just didn't really do anything, and we just kind of forgot about it. And I don't know if Mike has any of those songs still around on any format, any of those ideas. I don't even know if I have any ideas that I had for it, but it has nothing to do with this record. It was just, that's kind of where the initial wheels started turning.
Yeah.
And then Cliff's back in the band, and we're, starting to play some more shows, and we have Chris on drums, and Chris just is getting better and better since I've been playing with him, which is a while now. And it's a really tight band. We're kind of like, the distance is the one thing that sucks, because we're
kind of
two of us are in Ocean City, and two of us are in Mike's in Baltimore, Chris is in DC area, and it's a couple hour drive, but it's an annoying drive.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Other than that, I mean, we all had the same passion to, if we're going to do a record, it's got to be really killer, and we don't want to come out flat. We don't want to come out with anything that's going to, like I said, disappoint any of the old school fans, and we want everyone to like it, but we want to like it,
Yeah.
and we're gonna do it the way we want to. We're gonna do it the way that we feel like doing it.
Yeah. So did you guys
but it's got to be good, and it is.
Yeah. Where did you guys record it? Do you some of you guys have the ability to do that?
Yeah. Well, no, we did a whole not a Kickstarter, but we just made it known that if you come to the show, any money that we make at the show, it's all going towards the new record. If you buy a t-shirt, it's all going towards the new record. And we literally, I started a bank account, and just any money we made, we wouldn't take home gas money or anything like that. We just, we were basically doing everything with hopes of saving it up and having enough to do a record. And because we didn't want to just do it ourselves. We talked about that, but it was just, it's better to just go into a real studio.
Yeah.
Get it done right. So yeah, we found an awesome studio, Baltimore, called Orion Studios, and it worked out great. The engineer and owner, everyone was super cool and really accommodating to our needs and stuff, and it was a relaxed environment. But
yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
What's the reaction been to the first song you guys released, or even just in what is your kind of overall sense of Huntington fans? These days, what are they engaged with? What are they excited about your band?
Everyone's older.
Yeah.
I have I check the Spotify for artist numbers, where I can look at the details of how many male listeners versus female listeners, which is a huge difference. Mostly all male. You could see what cities you're popular in the most, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
But the age range is one thing that sticks out. It's everyone kind of grew up with us, and we're all in our late. Well, we're not all in the same age range. I'm 39. Chris is 38, I think. Mike's 43. I don't know if that's accurate. Mike's maybe 44. But Cliff just turned 50. Okay. Either way, it's it's about a 10-year age range, and that's about how old our fans are. So I love the fans. They're always just with us. They're just always, it's a lot of the same people, and they're awesome. We love them. So, and it's cool to make new fans as well. And I think that even though everyone's a little bit older, maybe they're not moving around as much, but
right.
Who cares? Yeah. That's what you get we got to work in the new crowd, the young kids.
Yeah. So what are you guys hoping for this year with this album being released? Are you looking to do kind of some more touring or just weekend shows, or what would kind of be the ideal setup?
I would love to tour, but that's not going to happen with these guys because everyone else has kids, families, and basically jobs that won't allow it.
Right.
I've been fortunate to have jobs over the past few years that would allow me to leave. I'm a bartender here now,
okay.
and everywhere I've worked was just okay. We'll see you in a month.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So for me, it was never a big deal, but it doesn't work that way when you have Mike works for the government. Cliff has a full-time job as a logistics coordinator, and Chris is basically like up at 3 a.m. going to his full-time job, which he's like never able to do more than a long weekend. So
right.
We're going to do long weekends or short weekends. And I think we're just going to stick to that for now. Hopefully we get some offers to, if we can fly in somewhere, if it works out financially, where we can go do something like that.
Yeah.
But it's mostly going to be like a shot down the coast or up to maybe Boston area. And we're talking about maybe going out towards Pittsburgh, Ohio area as well. But everywhere we go, it's going to be within range of making it back for work on Monday or Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And I think that's what a lot of bands are doing that have been around as long as you guys. So I guess you just kind of do what you can, and it's better than nothing, at least to me, to still get out a bit and still keep playing. So yeah. What would you say you're most excited about the new record?
Well, just that we have a new record, first of all, and it was all able to come together. We were able to finance it ourselves, and we've got Burnt Toast has just done. Our friend Scott Hatch, he owns Burnt Toast Vinyl, and he's just like helping us out so much.
Awesome.
He got Jeff Cloud, who was in Joy Electric and Starflyer and stuff. Like he's doing a lot of PR for us right now, and he sends us messages like every other day, like, here's a list of everyone that is going to be doing some kind of review, and I'm looking through this. I'm like, wow, Rolling Stone. Oh my gosh. Oh, and wow, 30 other places I never heard of. And
that's awesome.
So it's just cool to do. It's going to be out there, and I think everyone's going to like it. It's an exciting record, and it's different in a way that, there's some stuff that you wouldn't expect from us, and
awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. What would you say has kept you involved and excited about playing music, after all these years, where lots of guys would kind of just retire it and just, focus on, family or work or whatever? What is it that kind of just keeps you coming back?
I don't know if you probably do have the same bug or whatever. And if you've done it, like if you've had any touring experience, and if you've had that studio experience, it's just something about it that you can't really stop it, even if you aren't in a band anymore. Cliff's a good example of this, because he tried to stop when he had his first kid. He was like selling his guitars, selling his amps, and he's like, I don't need any of that stuff anymore. All I need is my family. It's like, I don't need this guitar. I don't need any of that. And I'm like, okay, you're just going to end up buying one later. Why don't you just keep the one you have? No, I don't need it. And of course he bought all of his same exact gear all over again. And now he's just as excited about, playing shows and this record coming out as any of us. But you can't get rid of that once get that bug,
Yeah. Well, I've had enough, friends that played in bands where, it was kind of the opposite where, something came up, whether it was, they got married or whatever, and they're just like, all right, I'm done with the band, like selling all my stuff. And I still know some of those guys, like they never really went back. They were just happy to be done with it. And so it's always so kind of intriguing to me why, like how you can be so passionate about something and pour so much time and energy and then just be like, yep, I'm done with that. But I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe people just don't take a healthy break and just kind of give it some space, instead of just kind of going to the extreme and selling everything.
I think if you don't have your own little space in your house that has a guitar, at least a guitar on a stand, like out of the case, something that you can easily grab, that's just speaking to guitar players, or a bass guitar, or have a basement with drum set up. If you don't have that you can easily access,
right,
it's easy to like fade out from that. And man, I haven't played guitar in like 6 months or whatever. But I try and right now I have 2 guitars out of their case, and I also have a bass. I don't even play bass, but I have a bass like leaning up against my amp, next to a piano. And I'm not saying I'd sit in here and play music all the time, but knowing that it's easily accessible, I don't have to like get out all my cables and,
right,
hook everything up or pull the amp out of the garage or whatever. Like knowing that it's like right here, and I could just, if I want to plug in and crank it real quick for 5 minutes, that helps a lot. And otherwise, you can kind of forget about that. And, if or maybe you're just not very good at playing, and you just, no. But yeah, I don't think that bug ever leaves you. I think even those guys that say that they're fine and they're happy, I think deep down that, they miss it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, awesome. Well, man, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to share with us today. And so how about we just end with, you can just let us know the album title, when it's coming out, and maybe where people can find it.
Yeah, so January 31st, it will be out everywhere on all the streaming and CD, cassette tape as well, and vinyl. We got 2 different colored vinyls coming out.
Right on.
The pre-orders are up now on Burnt Toast Vinyl's website. You can, if you pre-order it, you get the first single. You'll get that as a 7-inch, which has a bonus B-side to it.
Sweet.
That will not be on the record. So yeah, that's all available to pre-order now. I think the singles are shipping out pretty soon. But yeah, it's called Muerto Carcel o Rock and Roll.
Nice.
And that is Spanish for dead, jail, or rock and roll. And that's kind of what this album is about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks so much, Josh, for taking the time, man. It was a pleasure getting to talk with you and hear more about, just what influenced you in music and what's going to keep you going into the future. So really appreciate you coming on the show.
All right. Thanks, Aaron.
All right.
Appreciate it.
See ya.
See you, bud.
Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?